How are you? I hope I find you well. I'd like to welcome you all to our 6-week online course. So, first, I would like to introduce myself and give you an introductory to the course and what we'll be covering in these 6 weeks. So, my name is Humphrey Nyambiya. I'm a master's student at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. I'm a master's student in archaeology, specializing in archaeozoology, or basically it's about the relationship between past human societies and the environment. So basically that's me. But also I have a huge interest in heritage management. So that's why I'll be taking you for this course. So by way of introducing this course to us all, so that we'll be familiar with what we'll be looking at in these 6 weeks. So we'll be having 6 weeks of online course, and each week, it's on contents which we need to cover. So week one, what we'll be doing week one is basic introduction to cultural heritage. So in this course, what you understand is there are two major components of the course. Number one is cultural heritage, and number two has to do with the restoration and conservation of cultural heritage properties. So those are the two major focuses of our course. So for week one, what we'll be doing is we'll be basically introducing what is cultural heritage, the different forms of heritage, cultural, international, or mixed. Then we discuss about the different forms of heritage. After discussing about the different forms of heritage, we look into the laws that govern these heritage properties. So in most instances, you find that there are some international legal frameworks that have been developed through the years, and we look at these different conventions and the implications of these different conventions on the management of cultural heritage, what they mean, how the different countries are managing their heritages using these kind of legal frameworks. So basically, that will be it for week one. It's just an introduction as well as the different laws that govern cultural heritage. Then for week two, we'll be concerned with the practices in heritage conservation and presentation. So for week number two, what we'll be dealing with is conservation. So there are different types of conservation. For example, there are preventive conservation, and we'll be looking as well as at conservation of the built heritage, and on heritage presentation. What will be very fundamental in this week is digital technologies and heritage presentation. How do we use digital technologies to present our heritage to our different audiences? So that will be very key for week number two. Then for week number three, what we'll be looking at is World Heritage Sites. So we all know that we are from different countries, and there is a body that came up with this idea of having World Heritage Sites, which will be based on the principle of outstanding universal value. And because it will be a World Heritage Site, what it means basically is it's heritage for all humanity. So there are some sites that have been declared as World Heritage Sites. So we'll be looking at the principle of outstanding universal value. What does it mean to say this site has an outstanding universal value? That's number one. And secondly, we'd like to interrogate the concept of World Heritage Site, looking at the issues to do with outstanding universal value. Yes, it is an outstanding universal value, but we all know that because we are people from different settings or from different cultures, in as much as I might value what other people might not really value as I do, how do we really strike a balance between these? So at World Heritage Sites for week number three, we'll be looking at the principle of outstanding universal value. Is it really working, the principle of outstanding universal value? Or what are the shortfalls? And we discuss about that. Then after the principle of outstanding universal value, we're going to look at the issues to do with World Heritage Site listing and representation. So for currently, there is a site where you find, there's a list of World Heritage Sites. So based on that list, we are going to look at the different, we're going to look at the lists based on their continents, for example, from Africa, from Europe, from the different continents. Then we see the listing and we see the representation. What does this representation tell us, or what's the implication of this kind of representation? And then it is my hope that in this week 3 we can chat about ways we may add those that are least represented on the World Heritage site. It's something that we can discuss about. And then week number 4, we'll be basically looking at how we can manage cultural heritage. So it's managing cultural heritage. So we have the different types of cultural heritages, and we have these different types of cultural heritages require different kinds of management. So I'll give a particular example. For example, if you are managing a built heritage, the way you approach the management of a built heritage is different from the way you approach a rock art site, because these two are essentially different. It means the management approaches should also be different. Why? Because you are looking, or you are managing different types of heritage properties. So we'll be looking at managing these different types of cultural heritage properties, and we'll look at disaster management. So we know that cultural heritage is also vulnerable to some disasters, and how can heritage managers mitigate, or sometimes we might not really minimize, or we might not really avoid the disasters, but after the disasters, how can heritage managers cope with the effects of the disasters? And I think we'll look at the different kinds of disasters, and we'll look at the impacts of of these disasters on cultural heritage. And then one thing that also came to my mind on week 4 is for us to discuss a bit about the effects of the pandemic, which we are all in, and which everyone is talking about, of the coronavirus. So it's something which we will discuss about the effect of COVID-19 to cultural heritage. Then we look at its effect to the different heritage institutions. Then we also look at managing rocket science, and we know that prehistoric communities or past peoples, they had their own way of portraying their lifestyle. So rocket is one of these kind of symbolism, or is one of the way they communicated their messages. So we'll be looking at the rockets, the different types of rockets which we have, and their distribution across the globe. Then on week 4, lastly, something that is quite important, which we look at, is managing intangible heritage. So intangible heritage, as we shall see in week 1, when we define and when we characterize the different types of heritage, there's also one type of heritage which we'll talk about, which is intangible heritage. And what its name suggests, it's intangible. It's something that you can't really physically say it's here nor there. So it's something that pertains to the beliefs, for example, and to things like dance, yes, like traditional dances. So we look at the first and foremost, what we look at for week number 4 that pertains to intangible heritage is an convention that was made in 2003 for the protection as well as promotion of intangible heritage globally. Then we look at how this has impacted the protection as well as the promotion of intangible heritage through the years, and what really is intangible heritage. How best can we conserve intangible heritage? Then on week 5, On week 5, we'll be dealing with reconstruction and restoration of cultural heritage. So this week, basically, what we will do is it will look at the week is more or less quite practical in terms of, yes, it's theoretical on what we discuss, but what will be discussed needs a lot of practice. For example, yes, we need to when we want to restore, yes, there are some theoretical aspects of a restoration, but then the restoration will be the actual practical part of it. So in week 5, what we are going to discuss here, we are going to discuss two very important issues that pertain to the restoration and reconstruction of cultural heritage. Number one is authenticity. So when we do our reconstructions and our restorations of cultural heritages, we need to consider the question of authenticity. So basically, authenticity, when we talk about restoration and reconstruction of cultural heritages, what it entails is that, for example, we have a site, and this site was occupied by past human societies at a certain age, and because of some disturbances to the site, we need to maybe restore the site. But when we restore the site, we need to consider the authenticity of the original site. So when we restore, we should not give a different picture from what was there initially. So the issues to do with authenticity, they pertain to how we are going to approach restoration, or how are we going to approach reconstruction. So, for example, we need not to introduce really a lot of the new materials. Then we stick to what was used. That will be very important in the question of authenticity. So we'll be saying, how authentic are our restoration or are our reconstruction based on what we know, or based on what these past human societies built? So how authentic are our reconstruction? Because these reconstructions should not give a distorted picture at the end of the day. So we'll be looking at authenticity, and we'll discuss about authenticity in detail in week 5. Then lastly, in week 5, we look at the ethics, the different ethics that govern the restoration and reconstruction of cultural heritage. So authenticity is one of the ethics that govern restoration and reconstruction. So those are the two major components which we deal with in week 5. Then in week 6, when we have said all this, what then is the future of cultural heritage? So we'll be looking at the future of cultural heritage. So number one, we are looking at cultural heritage and sustainable development goals. So we know that almost everything now yes to contribute towards sustainable development goals. So we'll be looking at how we can use cultural heritage in the development of or in achieving sustainable development goals. So one of the things that is key and that I'm quite keen in seeing is using cultural heritage in a development goal which I'll identify. So one of the key things is, how can we use cultural heritage in poverty eradication? Because what we know is uh, anyone or almost every society, what they are concerned with is issues that yes to do with the bread and butter, or that at least benefits them financially. So when we are talking about cultural heritages and sustainable development goals, we'll be talking about how we as heritage managers can use cultural heritage as an asset to achieve sustainable development goals. Because like I said before, when cultural heritage as an asset does not benefit the people, then they don't really see a value in protecting the heritage. So it will be something that we need to discuss a lot about, especially the issues to do with cultural heritage and sustainable development goals. And then the other thing is we'll be talking about the tourism industry. So cultural heritage tourism. What is cultural heritage tourism? How can cultural heritage managers continue to develop cultural heritage tourism to suit their own audiences? And how best can they package uh, cultural heritage tourism so that it can attract visitors. And now, like I've said before, given the pandemic and this situation, what then might be alternatives to this? Because for at least for 2020, there were no travels like almost globally for 2020. So it means tourism was affected. But then now we are starting to at least borders are starting to open. But even with that in mind, how can cultural heritage managers use their different resources to tap into tourism, whether physically people coming in or virtually? How can cultural heritage managers use cultural heritage tourism? Then lastly, what we're going to look at is the issue to do with climate change. And we all know that the climate is ever changing. So with the change in climate, what then is the effect of this to the future of cultural heritage? What then is the effect of climate change to the future of cultural heritage? So basically, that's the introduction to our course, which we are going to have. It will be a 6-week online course, and I hope you're going to enjoy as much as I will do. And like I said, I think I've tried to give a very quick and brief rundown of what we're going to look at in these 6 weeks. I hope you're going to enjoy, and above all, I'd like to thank you for joining this course, and I hope you're going to learn a lot as I will do as well. Thank you so much for joining the course, and I'm hoping to have a good time with you all, and see you as the course goes. And bye.